Welcome back. North Korea, second from the bottom of Reporters Without Borders Index on Press Freedom, is known as the world's most secretive state. So secret, in fact, we don't really know if its leader, Kim Jong-il, is dead or alive. North Korea's isolationist policies, tightly controlled state media, and refusal to have any foreign news bureaus based on its soil mean that rumor often fills the void left in the absence of real journalism. Occasionally, international news media are allowed in for short, supervised visits. As is often the way, what you cannot say or do as a reporter is as telling as what you can say. And that was certainly the case when Al Jazeera's Tony Cheng visited North Korea last year. Here's his report.
This is how the outside world sees North Korea. A highly organized socialist society where everything is choreographed, even having fun. Its secretive leaders often laughed at overseas, but here as powerful as gods. And now a member of the exclusive club of countries that have nuclear weapons. Closed off behind one of the most impregnable borders in the world, the DPRK remains watched from afar, but open to very few. So what's the truth behind the so-called bamboo curtain? We were allowed rare access to North Korea for 8 days. It was a chance, we hoped, to observe normal life in a country where the news often seems so extraordinary. But will we be able to do our work? Although invited by the government, we knew we'd also be closely scrutinized. How much were they going to try and point us in the right direction as we film North Korea? Well, quite a lot, it seemed. Mark, our cameraman, received special attention from minders and soldiers alike. Mr. Kim and Mr. Chang, our guides from the North Korean government, were always lending a helpful hand or ear to check everything was okay. It was unnerving for us, let alone anyone we were talking to. After a while, even I got into the habit of looking over Mark's shoulder. We just managed to slip away from our minders very briefly. And I think over the course of the last 5 days, this is the only time that they haven't been within a 10-meter radius of us. It was all very cozy, but the minders weren't necessarily there to help. Mr. Kim's strategy when asked for interviews was to slowly back away. We'll see. As we were shuttled around to monuments celebrating North Korea's great successes, we kept asking just to meet ordinary North Koreans. And unless you can let us do something there, it's going to be very hard for us to get anything at all out of this trip.
Yeah, but I think there can be some hope there. Still not yet. We have to see a bit.
It wasn't looking good, and the journey progressed in silence. The danger North Korea faces from flooding is not just from the water. They even wanted to control what we were saying. A story that mentioned the famine of the late 1990s. Something that could happen again after the worst floods in 50 years. Then, as many as 3 million died. We mentioned a conservative several 100,000.
Where did you get the statistic?
That's the accepted figure. That's what the UN talk about, I think. And certainly the aid agencies that discuss it.
The discussion raged on. Why wouldn't we believe the official North Korean government figures? We should have asked the farmer cycling home to settle the debate. He would have known what it was really like, but we weren't allowed to.
General Kim Jong-il instructed to state the U.S. government should take responsibility and apologize. Then we'll return the prisoners, but we cannot return Pueblo as it is a trophy.
Over the course of our trip to the DPRK, our hosts were keen to show us their version of history. Here a video explained the seizing of a US spy boat off the coast of North Korea in 1968, Just another example, they said, of America's hostility. At times, it was hard to stay awake through the constant diet of propaganda. The tales of heroic workers, record production levels, and the socialist paradise were a bit hard to swallow. Even our minders seemed to be having a hard time staying awake, until they spotted us, watching them, watching us. A constant theme of the trip was the importance to North Korea of the great and the dear leaders. Kim Jong-il, the current dear leader, may be more famous overseas, but here images of his father, Kim Il-sung, the great leader, are far more prevalent. But still our hunt for ordinary North Koreans went on. On the subway we didn't have much joy. Like everywhere else in the world, it seems that conversation on the underground isn't encouraged here. As the trip drew to a close, it was hard to make any solid conclusions about real life in the north. Obviously much of what we'd seen had been stage managed, but there were some things they couldn't hide. Energy is clearly in short supply. There were few cars on the street and frequent power cuts. Despite claims to the contrary, a market economy is starting to emerge. Small stalls could easily be seen on the roadside. And for the most part, we were welcomed with interest. Off the record, people seemed genuinely to want the country to open up. But what do ordinary North Koreans think about living in a country where the state controls all aspects of your life? I'm afraid I don't really know. In all of the time we were there, I don't think I spoke to a single one.
More Global Village Voices now on the repression of the media.